Borderlands 4 has over 100 plus legendaries, and out of those, almost 75% of them are original. But today, I wanted to run through that small 25% of items that are stem-offs from previous items in the series and break down which gun is better in which game, as well as talk about some more niche continuation items that you might not have noticed had any predecessors to start with. Starting off this, I'll run through some of the most obvious continuation guns, ones that either kept the same effect in almost every way as their previous versions, kept the same name, or ones that kept everything except with some slight, minor changes. The Hellfire is probably the pinnacle and most well-known example of the continuation genre of weapon, having predecessors running all the way back to Borderlands 1, as well as of course a version in 2, 3, the pre-sequel, which even had its own spin-off of the weapon, the Frostfire, which shot ice bullets that froze enemies while still doing fire damage, and even Tiny Tina's Wonderland, where it returned as a spell instead of a standard gun. But where was it best? Well, it shouldn't be much surprise to those who've played Borderlands 1 that it was best there. While still decent in 2, 3, and the pre-sequel, it was arguably one of the top 5 guns in the whole game in Borderlands 1, something it gradually lost as the number of guns increased, and the power creep slowly pushed it further and further down from the top. Enough of that negative talk though, what about something that went from buns to arguably pretty good? That is, as you might guess, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, which mostly only makes it onto this list due to it keeping the same name, as its effect has changed pretty sharply over the years, starting back in Borderlands 2, where it was one of, if not the worst shield, in the entire game. Its sole purpose was to essentially kill the user, and that's about it. Then, Borderlands 3 brought it back, but even there, where it no longer sought to just kill the wearer, it was still pretty bad, having an underwhelming capacity and a special effects that, well, it just wasn't much to write home about. But then, in Borderlands 4, it went under a shocking transformation, which turned it into an assault rifle, a pretty good one at that. So while it lost its Tango, it did become a properly noteworthy item after over 13 years. By the way, if you're hunting for it, I'd advise going for a Ripper part on it. I know the charge up is kind of annoying, but with a scrap cannon underbarrel, the Ripper part bypasses the typical burst fire mode, allowing for it to shoot at an absolutely absurd fire rate. Now let's quickly run through a couple less interesting continuation items that appear in Borderlands 4, such as the Hellwalker, which first appeared in Borderlands 3, where it's obviously far better in. This can mostly be thanks to the whopping 317% damage buff on March 3rd, 2020, which made it one of the best shotguns in the whole game for the rest of the game's lifespan. There's also the Complex Root, which, while really good in Borderlands 3, I'd reckon surpasses its Borderlands 3 self in 4, under the condition that it gets a Jacob's part, which lets it do some insane things like this. And you can't forget the Star Helix, though I wouldn't blame you if you did. It's in both Borderlands 3 and 4, where I'd argue it's better in 3, though in both, it's not really that memorable. The gun got showcased the other week by Gearbox themselves for Borderlands 4, and even in their showcase, you can't see it kill a thing. This isn't because the clips they show are too short, this gun has simply never killed anything before, and that's a fun fact. The stopgap also returns from Borderlands 3, though I'd consider it a downgrade in 4, as despite it being decent can't save you from the drop of formerly being one of the best shields in the game to a simply alright sniper. A better sniper though, and one that got a well-deserved upgrade, is the Katagawa's Revenge, and while no gun's ever been named the same title, its effect does share a striking resemblance to the Storm Pearlescent from Borderlands 2, also known as one of the most useless weapons ever. So its upgrade here in 4 is pretty significant, gaining an extra element to deal damage with, as well as some proper killing potential on some select Harlow builds. The Seventh Sense also is a returning item from Borderlands 3. It would have been another sad story as it was decent in 3, but in 4 was completely worthless, until a week ago when it got a massive whopping 250% buff to its extra shot-off projectiles. So at the point it is at now, I'd consider it an upgrade in 4. There's also 4 more guns we can clear off the list all in one fell swoop. While they don't share too much in common and special effects, name-wise they all share the same second word, with the King's Call, Queen's Call, Rowan's Call, and Lucian's Call from 3, and the guns that share the same first word in 4, the King's Gambit, Queen's Rest, Rowan's Charge, and Lucian's Flank. The King's Gambit in 4 loses the ammo refill effect from the King's Call in 3, in exchange for ricocheting any and all bullets, not just crits. Though in the end, the win for which is better has to go to the King's Call, obviously. The same goes for the Queen's Rest. While, in my opinion, it's better than the King's Gambit, it still falls short when it comes to surpassing the Queen's Call from 3. Though it's far closer in this scenario. The Rowan's Call and Charge do have more in common than the previous weapons though, with both sharing a ricochet property and an ammo refill property, but with one major difference. The Rowan's Call only shoots regular alien tech bullets, and the Rowan's Charge always shoots toric stickies, though one of these is arguably considerably better, which in my opinion is the Rowan's Call, accentuated by the Charge having an insanely pitiful damage number at the moment. Finally, the Lucian Flank and the Lucian's Call, which probably are the most similar, but yet again, the version from Borderlands 3 surpasses it. Mostly due to damage numbers being better, but also because in Borderlands 4, the Lucian's Flank special effect Trample has an oddly intentional limit to it, which prevents you from having infinite ammo with it, so hitting perfect crits still won't save you from Trample shutting off and eventually the magazine ending. Now with those 4 out of the way, we're on to some of the final definitive continuation items, starting off by clearing the list of the last shotguns with the Kaleidosplode, TK's Wave, Anarchy, and Convergence, as well as their previous additions, the Convergence, Anarchy, TK's Wave, a couple times, and then one I'd bet you might have forgotten, the Kaleidoscope from Borderlands 3. All 4 of these I'd argue are better in 4, minus 1. The Kaleidosplode, which might be shocking because in 3 the Kaleidoscope was at most just decent, but the Kaleidosplode, comedically enough, might be in contention for the worst gun in the whole game, if not the whole entire series. This gun blows. Its projectiles are definitely very striking, but its damage is so unimaginably piss poor. It is a shock it even came out like this. Here is footage of my maxed out Rafa using it with max shotgun ammo and not managing to kill the timekeeper after 30 minutes. Not just that, it used up all my ammo, again, without killing him. So yes, the Kaleidoscope isn't great in 3, but it is still, somehow, a trillion light years far and away better than the Kaleidosplode in 4. The Convergence, TK's Wave, and Anarchy, though, are all more loose and which is better. I'd say each is better in 4, except for maybe the Anarchy, but I'd argue it's far closer to just being even than 4's being worse. But the Convergence and TK's Wave are really fun in Borderlands 4. The TK's Wave is still an uncomfortable weapon to use, and I hate it, but I'd still say it's better than previous series incarnations. Next we have the Kaoson, which returns from Borderlands 3 as well, where I'd argue it's even with itself. Both are good, and I struggle to really place one over the other, which isn't something I can say with the Plasma Coil from 3 as well, because while in 4, it's still good, in 3, it was one of the best weapons to possibly ever be in the series. It shreds at mobbing, and can rip and tear through the tankiest of raid bosses. So yeah, while still decent in 4, it's definitely a fall from grace from where it once was. Next we have the Infinity Pistol to the XXL version, literally, the Finity XXL, which is a sniper that's, in my opinion, more akin to a Gatling gun, but in my possibly controversial opinion, I think the 4 version is better than its previous incarnations. Sure, the Infinity Pistol was decent in Borderlands 2, but it mostly relied on Zero's very specific one-shot, one-kill boost. But other than that, the pistol didn't really have considerably special damage. In 4 though, it stands on its own and can be used to some pretty good potential on some builds, especially with Vex. And here's the final 2 special-ish things. One sort of interesting and the other not. The not so interesting one is the Cold Shoulder, which was originally from 3 as a quest reward in the story, while in 4 it's a drop from Moxie's tip jar. Its big, notable change though is its swap from being a sniper to an assault rifle. But there is one other item, the Fishslap, a unique grenade from Borderlands 3 that, in 4, doesn't return. At least not in name, but in everything but Slippy takes its role, being an even larger fish that does the exact same thing, using melee damage instead of grenade damage. The only difference is it's just a bigger fish. Bet you thought that was it. Well, it almost is, but I also noted down a bunch of items that were more half and half on if they were intentionally continuations of previous items. So let's start the list from, in my opinion, most probable to least probable. First we have the Heartbreaker from Borderlands 2 and 3, and the AC May in Borderlands 4. Mostly, they don't share similarities, losing the healing property the Heartbreaker was known for in the meta, but it does still shoot in a sweet, heart-shaped pattern. There's another weapon, also vaguely similar to the Heartbreaker, but only in 2 loose ways, being the Sweet Embrace, as it's obtained from Moxie, just like the Heartbreaker, but also shoots a pattern spread of pellets. It's just not a heart, it's a square. Don't worry, if you thought that was a stretch, I've got another one for you. The Bully Gun and Wilhelm, the man. The Bully Gun shoots out a drone every 14 seconds, And Wilhelm, in the pre-sequel, of course, as his action skill, had 2 drones, and character-wise was pretty often described as a bully, or just a douchebag. Okay, the last one was a stretch, but here's another one that I think is more possible than our last, being the Lead Balloon and the Lead Storm, both duplicating projectiles as their original pellet falls, though being from different manufacturers as well as entirely different weapon types, though that hasn't stopped continuations in the past. Okay, and with that, I only really have 4 more that I'm interested in sharing and that I think are real possibilities of maybe taking inspiration from previous things in the series. So I'll go ahead and shoot with the Hot Slugger, taking from both the One Pump Chump, obviously, but also, hear me out, the Fastball, both being baseball references and being explosive, fast-moving projectiles that eliminate the rest of their competition. Think on that for a minute. Also, don't forget the Burt's Bees. What's that a reference to? The Hive, of course. Okay, yeah, it's just both bees, but there's also homing projectiles.
But we can be bees. This is good news.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to check out my Twitch, as well as maybe one of the videos on screen, and let me know what your favorite continuation gun is across the series. Thanks.